Hello, I'm Ellen Burney with Satellite Video Production. Today I'm going to explain to you some very easy steps to enhance your client's photos, the main ingredient in a video scrapbook. Before photos can be edited together, they need to look their best. So by listening to my simple instructions, you too will have the recipe for great-looking scrapbooks. First, I am going to discuss photo scanning. I am sure some of you will be surprised to know that you can scan several photos at one time. Place your photos into the scanner so they will all fit neatly onto the glass. Note that the photos can be placed in any direction. One of the tools we will discuss later will teach you how to center all pictures correctly after they have been scanned through the computer. Bring your scanner online. Once you have placed your photos on the scanner glass, click the Preview button. Your images should appear on the screen. Simply click on the corner of a picture and drag the cursor to the opposite corner. When you are finished outlining your first picture, click on the Scan button. These two steps, outlining and scanning, should be repeated for each photo. Be sure to remember to click on the Scan button after you outline each photo. Most of the photos I have just scanned were horizontal and remained that way once placed on the screen, but one horizontal was placed vertically on the screen to save room. To rotate the picture, select Image from the pull-down menu. Click on the Rotate Canvas. Now you will have the option to rotate your photo clockwise or counterclockwise, whichever is needed to correct your photo. After you have finished scanning the photo, save them. If you find that a picture scanned in crooked, Photoshop provides a tool that can straighten the problem photo. Non-Photoshop users will need to use your own program's rotating tool to correct your photos. Go to the Photoshop Marquee Rectangle tool, hold down and click the Crop tool. When the Crop option palette appears, set your fixed target size to 752 by 564. Set the resolution to 150. Drag the Crop tool to outline the picture. Center it over the photo and double-click to have it crop the photo. Now we are going to discuss the different problems that your client's photos may have and the appropriate tools in Photoshop that will help you improve dark or torn photos. Let's take a look at an older photo where the color has faded. Photoshop provides many tools to help remedy this problem. Here is one that I recommend. Under the Image pull-down menu, go to Adjust, and a second menu will appear. Select Curves or Levels. These will adjust the midtones and fine-tune the tonal correction. After opening the Curves file, the dialog box will appear. Select the white-filled eyedropper and click on the whitest part of the picture. This will lighten the picture. Using the black-filled eyedropper, click on the darkest part of the picture. This will darken the image. Click on the gray eyedropper, then adjust the curve on the graph. When the picture is to your liking, save. There may be times when you want to tweak the color in photos, where the faces are not the right color. Click on the Image pull-down menu, select Adjust, and then select Color Balance, and the dialog box will appear. Try experimenting. Use the scrubbers to adjust the color. You can always use the preview box to check if you are improving the picture. Here is a vertical photo. Since the television screen uses horizontal images, we try and convert vertical photos to horizontal photos. Click on the Crop tool and use this to reshape the photo. Then outline just the area you want in the photo. For example, you sometimes will select just faces or maybe head and shoulders, and eliminate the bottom portion of the photo. Some photos may have spots or dirt that have become part of the picture. To clean this photo up, I would use a rubber stamp tool on the toolbox. Click on this tool, then click while holding down the Alt key on a clear area of the photo that is the same color as the damaged area. Once you have done this, click on the spots to remove them. The key is to pick a color that will mesh well with the area where the spots are to be removed. Besides the rubber stamp tool, there is another way to remove unwanted spots. I recommend using the magnifying glass to make your picture larger. Then you will take the eyedropper to pick the correct color, switch to the paintbrush, clicking on the spots that you want to eliminate. Remember to adjust the brush size accordingly. To fix creases or spots, block the area you will be working on with the marquee rectangle tool. I recommend going to the Filter pull-down menu and then click on Noise. Move your cursor to Dust and Scratches and a dialog box will appear. Adjust the scrubbers to remove the imperfection. In my opinion, the rubber stamp tool is much quicker to use than the paintbrush or the Dust and Scratches dialog box. Once you have done all you can to improve an image, save it. A helpful hint when saving photos is to save it in a folder with the same name as the client's. All pictures should have been numbered by the client in order of their use in the video. Keep these same numbers when saving. Computers need to have numbers with the same number of digits when sorting. For example, if you save the following pictures, 1, 2, 10, and 20, the computer will put them in this order, 1, 10, 2, 20. To get around this, use zeros before the whole numbers, so that you have the same number of digits in each number. In this example, 1 should be changed to 01, and 2 would be changed to 02. If your pictures number 100 or more, use 001, 002, and when you get to 10, use 010 and 011, and so on. Flyer Amiga users should save as an IFF file. Sometimes the picture must remain a vertical. In that case, place it on a black background that is 752 by 564. The reason for using a background is to allow you to easily resize all the images at the same time. Just take my word for it, it works. To get a black background, switch the color boxes on the toolbox so that the black becomes the background color. Go to File and open New. Set your pixels to 752 by 564. The resolution should be 150. Select Background Color. By doing this, your black background should appear on the screen. To resize your vertical picture to fit on the background, go to the Image pull-down menu, select Image Size, and adjust height to 564. I use this keyboard shortcut to paste the vertical photo onto the black background. Select Ctrl-A, then Ctrl-C. Go to your black background and then hit Ctrl-V. The photo should now appear pasted and centered on the black background. Use the Save as a Copy command when saving this image. Fred has me name vertical pictures with the letter V after its number. For example, picture number 10.iff would be saved as 10v.iff. Then, when a vertical picture is placed in the flyer, it can be identified as a vertical by its name. To scan black and white photos, go to True Color and make sure the black and white photo setting is on. Photos are then scanned into the computer the same way as color photos. I use my crop tool for cropping. I then need to go to the Image pull-down menu to Adjust panel and choose Level to improve the picture. Again, using the eyedroppers, you then click on the whitest part of the picture, and you can see how it becomes lighter. You then find the darkest part. By hitting the Preview button on the Level panel, you can see where the changes were made. Once all the improvements have been made, the photos need to be cropped to the correct size for video. The size of a video image on the toaster flyer is 752 by 480. The PC uses 640 by 480. If you have been doing your scanning on a PC, you will need to do the following.
By now, many of you are probably wondering why we kept telling you to crop your pictures as 752 by 564. The Amiga uses 752 by 480 as a screen size, and the PC uses 640 by 480. So where does the 564 come from? Although it is only a slight correction, it is better to reduce an image in size than to enlarge it. Anytime you enlarge an image, you are removing some of its sharpness, even if it's just a small amount. So instead of cropping at 640 by 480 and then enlarging the 640 to 752, we are oversizing the width at 564 and reducing it to 480, thereby maintaining the original sharpness of the image. The second question that must be on your mind is why we put vertical pictures on a black background. Rather than resizing each picture separately, as I'm doing right now in AdPro, you can do all the pictures at once by running an auto batch command in Photoshop. You can also run a similar auto batch command on the Amiga using Control Tower or Copilot or some other third-party program. Because of the speed of the PC, we just find it faster to do this on a PC. So since a vertical picture has different size widths, by putting it in a black frame that is the same size as all the other horizontal pictures, it is just treated as a horizontal picture during the auto batch, and the size adjustment is proportional. Before you start any scrapbook, you must have the pictures. We ask that our clients put the photos in the order that they want them to appear in the video, and place numbers on the back of the pictures with post-its. To avoid the problem of having any ink transfer from the post-it to the pictures, we tell them to use a pencil when numbering the pictures.
Most of our video scrapbooks have been sold by word of mouth. And then we get phone calls and a lot of times, and when I get a cold call, a person will ask me, do you know how to put still pictures to video? And in telling them, I tell this is our video scrapbook. We have 3 main packages. The first package is the deluxe, where we take your pictures and put them to music, editing them to the beat of the music with appropriate animation wipes or graphics depending on what is needed. Your vertical pictures are placed into a frame with an appropriate background. Say you have a picture of a person in a garden, we could put a flower frame around it and then a floral background in the background, and that just helps it stand out. Baby pictures, we have some baby frames, which you'll see later. We use 40 pictures per one song to make up the scrapbook, and you can use as many songs as you'd like.
People are going to say, how are you getting $180 for 40 pictures? The best we can do is 50 cents a picture. How do you do that?
I just said it. How do we get,
How do you overcome price?
How do we overcome price? We show them the pictures. One of the things I learned when we were doing weddings is not to give the price over the phone, but to say, if you haven't seen our work, please come in, because I'd like to show you what it looks like. And I set up an appointment. I will tell a few times some of the people what the cost is over the phone, but I always emphasize to come in and see our work. Now, we have gotten some referrals from one video scrapbook that we did for a birthday party. We did 2 other video scrapbooks. I didn't have to sell them. They just brought in the pictures. But to sell a cold call, you really have to get them to come in to see your work.
There are 2 ways of getting pictures into your computer. One is by scanning, the other is by shooting them with a camera. What I have here is a camera stand that we purchased a few years ago. I have a Panasonic D5000 sitting on top of the stand. There are 2 lights. That was the way my stand came. What I did is I bought from MechTech company, and they are in New York. They make a device that allows you to move a platen around on the table. This is just a regular manila file folder. I place it down here. Now you see, I can move the picture vertically, horizontally. Now we also found, we did this a long time ago, that you get a picture that is slightly curved. If you lay it down here, you can see where the edges will stand up. So to get around that, we'll take a sheet of glass. Now, see if you can see this. This glass is a special piece of glass because one side has kind of a dull finish. The other side looks like just a normal sheet of glass. Well, by using the side that is dull, it has less chance of reflecting light back into the lens of the camera. You can buy this at any craft supply store, find this glass, have them cut it down to the right size. In fact, I have 2 sheets of glass. This one I use for standard photographs. We keep a larger sheet of glass underneath, and I use it for my larger photographs. All right, let me show you some tricks on shooting on a stand. As I said, I place this file folder on the stand itself. Now, even if you don't have one of these devices, you'll find it very helpful to put your picture on some kind of a sheet of paper. And like I say, I found it was good to use just a file folder because they have these little tabs here that I can kind of bend up and get a hold of. Now what I can do is I can position the picture anywhere I want with this, although I found it much easier to use this device that I bought. Now, we also have a special lens on the camera. Let me take that off a second. I bought this from Century because I'm going to show you what the camera would look like. Okay, here's the view from the camera without this lens on it. And as you can see, if I zoom in, it's out of focus, and when I try to focus it, that's as close as I can get. Also, as I zoom, the focus will change. Okay? And this is a +2 diopter lens. Notice what happens when I put it in front of my lens. Now, what I will do is I'll zoom in all the way, and I'll focus. Okay, and now when I zoom back, I stay in focus all the way back. All right, so what I'll do is I'll zoom in till I get the approximate size of the picture, and then just move it either vertically or horizontally until I'm able to center it. And you can just picture placing one picture down after the other and quickly adjusting for the slight correction you need to make. Of course, this device will also let you, if you zoom in tightly, pan across the picture. And if you zoom out, and if you're very well coordinated, you can also pan while zooming. So you get a little bit of motion there. So what I'll do is I'll put one picture in, and I have this go directly to my flyer or to the toaster input. I do use the snapshot program, and with a foot pedal, all I have to do is line up the picture, press the foot pedal, wait for it to grab the picture, and then go to the next one. So I can quickly replace pictures, adjust it, zoom in, adjust a little more. And like I say, by using this piece of paper here, if I wanted to, I could also, like it was a little crooked, I can just quickly move it this way, and it just slides very easily. So we'll shoot that picture, and we found that we can shoot about 50 or 60 pictures an hour using this method. Grab that one. Also, you noticed on this piece of glass I put a little bit of tape on it to make it easier to lift. And I also marked on it as to which is top, so that when I have somebody else use it, or even if I'm in a hurry, I don't have to try to figure out which side of the glass is the dull side. So we just take our pictures, position them in here. Now these happen to be all different sizes, so each one requires just a little correction. There we go. Snap that picture. Go to the next one. This is where this little device, like I said, is handy, just to make slight corrections. There we go. And that's the way we do them off of the stand. One other nice thing about using a stand like this when you buy something that's already made for that purpose is that you have the ability of adjusting the camera to exactly where you want it. So if you're dealing with some very large pictures, you can bring that camera up as high as it'll go. And if you're dealing with sometimes pictures that you might find, well, even let's say something about that size, you might have to, even with your zoom lens, you might have to come in a little tighter. Now, how do we handle slides? Slides, I've always had a big problem with, and we've tried it several different ways. Now, this is a light box. Go to any store that sells photographic supplies, and you can find one of these. The reason you want to buy something like this is that it's color corrected. This has a 5000K lamp inside, which is color corrected. Now, that's close to 5200 Kelvin, which is your outside sunlight. So this would be corrected to daylight, not artificial light. All right, we can plug this in. Now white balance to the color of the light. There we go. Now I just need to position the camera. You have this little device here. Where you can put your slides in. And slide them through one at a time. And you have an adjustment to make for the exposure. You can also focus. And you can even zoom in. And you can put 5 slides on this little carrier at one time, and then reload them. So you put in 5, run them through, load the next 5, run those through. The third way I handle slides is with a slide scanner, which is attached directly to my computer. I feel this gives me the best quality of all 3 options. Now that we've either shot the pictures or scanned them, we're going to put them together. We offer 3 types of scrapbooks. The first is our economy. The pictures are shot on the camera stand. They are not cut to the music, and the only effects used are dissolves. There is an opening title. We charge $1.50 per picture. The second is our standard. The pictures are scanned. They are not cut to music, and the only effects are dissolves. There is an opening and closing graphic title. We charge $2 per picture. The third is our deluxe. The pictures are scanned. They are cut to the beat of the music. An effect other than a dissolve is used between each picture, and when possible, each matches the music or the picture. There is an opening and closing graphic title. We charge $180 for each song, with up to 40 pictures per song. All right, let me show you how we put all this together. If you have scanned or shot your pictures directly into the flyer, you are ready to start. If you did them on a different system, you now need to move them over to the flyer. Remember that the standard image size on the PC is 640 by 480. The flyer needs 752 by 480. Since we scan on a PC, we put all the files on a zip drive and move them to the flyer. Ellen scales them to 752 by 564. I then run them through AdPro and resize them to 752 by 480. There are many third-party programs that will do this. Most of them will do this as a batch, so you can set it up and walk away until it is finished. What you then need to do is convert the IFF files to frame stores. And again, this can be done through the flyer itself or through a third-party program. If we are doing a deluxe scrapbook, all of the vertical pictures are put into frames with an appropriate background. For this, I've been using Composite Studio. At the end of this tape is an in-depth tutorial on Composite Studio, so I'll skip over that step right now. When there is a vertical picture, I bring that into Toaster Paint, cut it out as a brush, and I might even do a tighter crop than the original. Ellen will always give me all the verticals in one directory by themselves, or they'll be marked with a V. So I treat those separately. So before I ever bother making frame stores or stills flyer clips out of them, I take them directly from the image that she gave me and bring it into Toaster Paint and create a brush. Shift R, B, and then I'll just cut out the image. I then save the brush into the same directory with the word brush added to the name of the file. So I might have 01 brush, 02 brush, and so on. These brushes are then used in Composite Studio. So now let's start with all the pictures in a project window. If you are doing a standard scrapbook, the pictures are not cut to the music and there are no effects other than dissolves. So it is a simple matter of placing a clip of music in the project right after the first picture. I will find the start and end of the music and set the scrubbers accordingly. The next step is extremely simple if you have Copilot Video. Go to the Set Stills screen, enter the running time of the music clip, and if you highlight the clip first, you can even have the program do this for you. Click on the box that sets the length of the stills. Select Whole Project or whatever portion of the project that pertains to the music clip. Then press Perform. Copilot will adjust the length of each still to fit into the total running time of the music. And go into Copilot, select Set Effects, Insert Fades, here to stop, Perform. Now I have dissolves between all my pictures. If you don't have Copilot, then get out a calculator or pencil and paper and do the math. Convert the running time of the music to seconds. Count the total number of pictures and divide that into the running time of the music. The answer will be the number of seconds each still must be. Then go through and adjust the length of each still. If there is more than one selection of music, you can get the total running time of all the music or do each song separately. Some of our clients will select certain songs for certain groups of pictures. The rule of thumb is 30 to 40 pictures per selection of music. The music should be between 3 and 4 minutes. This works out to about 5 seconds per picture, a good length. Much longer, and it looks like the pictures are dragging. Much shorter, and the pictures are flying by. A lot depends on the tempo of the music. A fast selection really demands that the pictures move by faster than a very slow ballad. Now let's get into the deluxe scrapbook. Now that the pictures have been either shot or scanned, we're going to bring them into the flyer. And we do this by either using a zip drive, or if we shot them, they were shot directly into the flyer, or if they were scanned, some of you I know can scan directly into the flyer. If not, we happen to move them over by using a zip drive. So you bring them into the flyer, you bring them into a project. Here I have about 35 pictures in a project. Now I'm going to use this particular piece of music, and this, for the purpose of this video, I'm using a non-commercial library music, but it has a good beat, and it would give a good example of the kind of music that we use in a video scrapbook. Now what I do first of all is I place the music at the very beginning of the scrapbook. Now let's just say you have 2 or 3 pieces of music, several songs, and maybe 100 and some pictures. do them one at a time. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with the first piece of music. So here's the beginning of the music, or here's the music at the beginning of the project, and then here are all my pictures. First thing I'm going to do is go into the control panel and find the actual start of the music. Find the end of it. Okay, we'll just check that start again. Okay. Now also, because I'm placing this before any video crouton, I'm also setting the lock to point to lock to program time. Now we'll change that later, but for the time being it's going to be locked to program time. Now go to the Tools menu. Okay, also make sure you've highlighted that. Then go to the Tools menu and select Edit to Crouton. The minute the music starts, you have to hit that space bar at the very beginning. And from there on, hit it for each beat that you want the picture to change. It's sometimes helpful to use a stopwatch just to get an idea of where you are time-wise as the pictures are rolling by. This will give you an idea whether you need to speed up or slow down your hitting of the music. In other words, I'm hitting to the beat, but I can always hit to the second or third beat. So let's give this a try. Okay, well, in this particular case, I either want to have used more pictures if I had been given more pictures to use, or some of these places a little bit earlier where I was kind of hitting about every 2 seconds, I would probably want to stretch that to maybe every 4 or 5 seconds. But let's just see how this looks. What I want to do now, you'll notice that all of the pictures are locked. What you want to do is unlock all of the pictures. So you select all, and then you select Alt-L, which unlocks everything, including the music. We're going to move the music now, the music icon, over to the right of the first picture. And let's just play this and see how it looks. Okay, you can see now that the pictures are going to the beat. Okay, we know that that works. We know that we're in sync with that. Now, if I had a second song, what I would do is come down here to the end of the last picture, take my next piece of music. Well, we'll just grab a piece of music down here. Let's say this were my second piece of music. I would place it right here after the last picture that I used. We'll do the same thing, find the open and close of it, place all the pictures I plan to use after this piece of music. So we have our second piece of music, the first picture to the second piece of music. I'm going to clone that. That's just for the purpose of holding sync. Move it in front of the second piece of music, and now start my music. Let's just to show you how that would work. Find the beginning of that. Now we're not going to run it all the way through, so I won't even bother finding the end of that. But I'll show you the reason I do this. We highlight the music, we do Edit to Crouton, we start it. Okay. Now what I want to just show you is why I did that. Now we'll do the same as we did before. Highlight any picture, select all, unlock them. Now take out this second picture that we cloned, just remove it. Move the music so it's now following the very first picture of the second song. And now watch what happens when we go to play from that crouton. Okay, you see it's in sync. The reason we clone it is simply to give the audio clip something to sync to initially, but then we don't need it when we actually play the project, so you just take it out. All right, then I would do the same for the next piece of music and the next piece of music. Now the work actually begins. Like you can see it only takes a couple of minutes to actually cut the piece of music or cut the pictures to music, but now we have to decide on the effects between each one. This is where I can spend about 2 hours on each selection of music. We'll go to our effects, and let's just start. First picture up. What I'm looking for in these pictures, as far as the effects go, are something that I might be able to use an effect that will match the particular picture. Let's just see if we have any in here. Here's a good example. Here we have one of a person playing the piano. So I know that I've got actually in Club Toaster, somewhere in here, we have a piano. It's actually a keyboard, but it'll work for the purposes that I like to use. Okay, here's the keyboard. We'll move that over here. We'll actually use it to bring the picture in. Anytime you're using a Club Toaster effect, you know you need to double click it before you can set the controls. And I usually like an effect to run between 1 and 2 seconds. Let's see. Probably 1 second. Let's see how long that picture is. That'll tell me something. Picture's on the screen for 2 seconds, so we know the effect can't be much longer than 1 second. All right, let's start building these effects. In many cases, when the picture is just a picture of some people in front of it, you really don't need a real jazzy effect. You're just looking for something that will be a nice transition. So things like the blinds work very well. In fact, sometimes when I want to show one person in the picture, I might use a blind effect like this. Okay, let's watch what happens between these two pictures. It just kind of opens up nicely to reveal, you know, a person standing there. Do it again. Let me do it again. Now, I always check the running time. Okay, these are all about a second. Some of the effects in the flyer are less than a second, and I usually go back and I set those to 1 second. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and select all these. Again, let me just see if there's any pictures in here that could use kind of a special looking picture. Well, okay, here we have one with a dog, and we know we have the animal. Doesn't seem to matter what kind of dog. People still seem to enjoy this. We have a picture of a dog in this shot, and we use the dog scene to kind of travel through there. I think you get the idea. Use your imagination. Be as creative as you can. Use good taste, but try to be very creative in that. If you have wedding pictures, the heart works quite well. Let's see, do we have a wedding in here? I'll tell you what works is either the heart or the sometimes even the doors opening up if you have a shot of a church. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put all this together, and then we're going to show you what it looks like completed. All right, what I did now is put it all together with all the effects. So let me show you what the finished product now looks like. Let's come on over here to the screen. Now, we need an opening title. Now here's a real nice one for birthdays. The thing I like about these is that they have a black area that allows you to bring the picture in. It just looks a little bit nicer than just dissolving into that image. So, one of the ways we'll do that in the flyer is to use a program that's tied in with Copilot, and actually it comes with fast frames. It's called Super Clips. Now let's go back to the flyer a second. If you have fast frames, you should have gotten Super Clips with it, and in the effects file you'll find under Control Panel a Super Clips folder and a Super Clip clip. And what we do here, just for the purpose of the Super Clip, I'm going to put a stop in here because it only needs to render a few seconds. In fact, let me clone this for 1 second. Just put that back where it belongs. This is the end of that clip. And what I want to measure is how long the black is seen in the box. See, this right here is where we're going to have this picture. So I back it off right to there. That's 1 second and 14 frames right here. So I'll make this picture (1 second and 14 frames). Actually, this has to be a clip, not just a still. So we're going to go ahead and convert that into a clip, and we'll be right back. So many of the third-party programs have been very helpful. For instance, Control Tower allows you to take a still and convert it into a clip, which is what I just used right now. For instance, this picture was actually a still. By using Control Tower, I converted it into a clip. So now let's close Control Tower, and we'll go find that clip. And that should be 1 second and 14 frames long. There we go. Okay, now we're going to check. We're going to run Super Clips. We can preview that. Also, I'm finding that the setting on Super Clips for most of Raybyte's videos need to be set at about 40. So change the 35 setting to actually 45, to about 45. We can preview that right here. Okay. We'll go ahead and run that. And that'll just take a few seconds, actually about probably 2 minutes to run. All right, here's the clip I just made. So I'm going to put that up here. We'll get rid of the other two files. Reset this. So it starts right at the very beginning. Now just to show you what that looks like. This is our little happy birthday opening. And when the box tilts, we see, oh, gotta do one other thing. Extend these out all the way. There we go. And when the box opens up, we'll see the picture inside, which is kind of a nice way to open up. Okay. Now, which would make this even better if we go back into, I went ahead into CG and went ahead and made a happy birthday title. We'll put that right in here. Check to see where the best place for that to come would be right after the little happy birthday tag comes in, which is at 7:16. So I'll mark that to start at 7:16 and let that run for 5 seconds. Take another look. Perfect. Okay. And we'll do the same thing. I've already done the same thing at the end, so my last picture will look something like this. And then sometimes people like us to put on the end here, love from so-and-so, and we put their name in at the very end. Now, one other thing we'd like to do to dress this up is you notice the music ended on this last picture as it was supposed to, and then we had the ending here without any music. So I have several nice pieces of music. Yep, this is the one. Okay, so we'll just put this in right here and back time it. So we'll find out how long each of these scenes are. This one's 4 seconds. And this one is 10, about 14, about 15 seconds ought to do it. And we'll just come back here 15 seconds. And fade in on that. Take a quick look and see how that looks. And actually that music should start here. Okay, I see we need to start that right. Oh, about 3 seconds. All right, now let's take a look at this. Oh, we wanted to do the same thing with the opening. That same piece of music works very well as an opening. See, I think I also have another one. Oh, you like the happy birthday, Ellen. All right. Yeah, we found this on the internet. This one is actually, the internet's a good source for quick pieces of music. I'm not sure where this originated. Happy birthday. What's birthday?
Yeah, right down in the end. Go on, second row.
Found it. Okay.
I found it.
Ellen found it. Okay.
Cameraman.
Cameraman found it.
You read that in, you can.
And all we need to do is time out how long this is. So this little section is 1320, and I know we could measure the two, but it's just as fast for me to do this. 13, about 14, well, let the flyer do it.
Tell them what you do.
1504. As you know, there's a tool here in the flyer to measure, and if you mark 2 croutons, it will measure the distance between the beginning of one and the ending of another. So what did we say? 1504. So we'll set the music at 1504. And fade it out. Go into fine tune. Fade it out for a second. Now, and we'll save it. Now this project is ready to play. Let's take a look at it.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. You know that we all love.
Now, the question has come up, what's the difference between scanning and taking pictures on the stand? Well, let me give you an example. We'll just show you the difference right now. This first picture was shot with the camera. And here it is, scanned. Now let me just do a split screen with that. The one on the left was photographed with the camera, the one on the right was scanned. I hope this tape has been of help to you. What I want to show you now is how we package the final product. Our deluxe videos are put in one of these, what's become known as the Disney album, where we take a photograph, we take one of the photographs, put it on the front cover. On the back we might have now, in this case, we had all the people that were involved in a particular video we did recently. They wanted their name on there. The front says Happy 50th Anniversary, and then lists, well, actually, it was like to whoever it was to. On our standard video scrapbook, again, we still give it a nice packaging. Instead of using the Disney album, we use the one that comes with your, that you can buy a little less expensive. This type of album. The covers on these are just a little smaller. These you cut down an 8.5 by 11 to fit this size. This actually takes an 8.5 by 11. But again, we design them, the covers just as nice. Put it in a, put their picture on the front, put something maybe on the back. Here we've done one that was, on the back they had written a little poem or something, and so we included that on there for them. Things that are simple to do, we don't tend to charge extra for. What we do is, by pushing the packaging, people will spend a little more sometimes on their pictures. They'll go for a deluxe when they see that you can add something like this, to the back. So again, I hope that answers all your questions. I hope we've covered everything that needed to be covered. We've been doing an awful lot of these video scrapbooks. We started doing them, I'm guessing, probably 12 or 15 years ago. They started because somebody came into us and wanted to do something for, I think it was a birthday gift. Then someone else saw what we had done, they wanted it, and it was referrals. We have really built this business on referrals. So it's something that all of you can do. We live in a small town, and I said that price does not seem to be an issue. You are selling an item that's going to be used as a gift. You're selling and you're producing, you're creating emotions. And when you deal at that level, price is not as much an issue as many of you might think it is if you're just talking about transferring pictures to video. You're not transferring pictures to video. You're creating an emotional image with video and with music. Here are some random tips that I thought of just as I was about to end this tape. 1. Convert the frame stores to flyer stills. They will load faster, and there is less chance that the flyer will hang up. You can use overlays on stills and have the overlay dissolve on and off. For example, there's an overlay of wedding bells. Make a flyer clip of your still with the bells as an overlay. Then clone the original still without the overlay and place them on either side of the flyer clip with the overlay. Put dissolves on either side of the flyer clip. Place an effect before the first still and the second still. Well, that is, you'd place an effect after the second still. The result is a scene where the bells fade in and out of the still. The still will also come in and out with an effect. 3. When you have a series of black and white pictures and finally a color picture, convert the first color picture to a black and white image. Then use the paintbrush or paint roller effect between the black and white image and the color image. It looks like you are painting color onto a black and white photo. 4. Make your effect match the sound of the music. Here are some examples.
If they only learn that the twisting kaleidoscope moves us all in turn, there's a rhyme.
Day I live.
5. And this actually came out this week for us. We had a problem with our zip drive and couldn't get our pictures into our flyer. And then it occurred to me, I've got a CD-ROM, and burners are plenty, and the cost of a CD isn't all that much. So we transferred all of the pictures onto a CD, and I was able to bring it into the flyer directly through the CD that's on the flyer. And this way, even though I couldn't use my zip drive and couldn't use my jazz drive, I was still able to use the CD-ROM. So there's a thought, and of course it also makes a permanent storage, which is something you might want to think of down the road. Maybe there's a need to have those pictures, you may need to use them for something later. At any rate, the CD can also be used as a means of transferring pictures from the PC over to the flyer if you have no other means of getting it in there. Our first video scrapbooks were just straight cuts, but they were all cut to the beat of the music. I believe this is what made our videos stand out from others. Here are some examples from those early days.
Simple then, or has time rewritten every line? If we had the chance to do it all again, tell me, would we? Could we?
The next examples are a kind of best of, little things that were done that just added a nice touch. Use these ideas to build on and then come up with some better ones of your own.
Song for you. We were alone and I was singing my song. Singing my song. Singing my song. Singing my song. Singing my song.
Baby, baby, I know what's not meant for t'other. My love for you is true and it will never stop for a minute. Baby, baby, always and forever. Baby, I'm so glad I'm here for you, baby. I'm so glad you're mine.
Ease my troubles, that's what you do. There's a love that in my heart that's left. Take away all my sadness. ease my trouble, that's what you do. You fill my heart with gladness, take away all my sadness, ease my troubles that
night. It is where we are. It's enough. Company, always on the run. Destiny is a rising sun. Oh, I was born, six gun in my hand, behind a gun, but you're my teenage queen. Oh, you're the prettiest, the loveliest girl I've ever seen. 16 candles in my heart will glow.
I'll be with you in apple blossom time. I'll be with you to change your name to mine. One day in May, I'll come and say, happy the bride the sun shines on today. What a wonderful wedding there will be. What a wonderful day for you and me. Church bells will chime, you will be mine. You were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long. A beautiful smile. I can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my wings. Hero, you're everything I wish I could be. Hero, you're everything, everything I wish I could be. Oh, you, the wind beneath my wings. Oh, you, the wind beneath my wings. Fly, fly, so high I almost touch the sky. Thank you, thank you. Thank God for you, the wind beneath my wings.
The last section of this tape is the Composite Studio tutorial. It is not an in-depth tutorial, but just one that will get you started and be able to handle some basics for preparing your stills. Let's take a look at Composite Studio. I know this program looks confusing to many people, so I'm going to try to explain parts of it. Other areas I will just leave alone because I don't get into them myself. I use Composite Studio mainly to work with vertical images, vertical pictures. Instead of putting them on a black background, what I like to do is to put them on a nice looking background with either a frame or a bevel and a drop shadow. Sometimes I might want to put more than one picture on the screen at a time. So let's look at all the elements that are here at Composite Studio. Well, first of all, on the left-hand side, these buttons. Quit is self-explanatory. You press that and you'll get a yes or no. Do you want to really end the program? Help brings up a nice little help screen. And if you have a question about anything, you just simply click it on. And on the right-hand side is an explanation of what it is that you're asking about. So even without an instruction manual, you can do quite a bit here. All right, let's go back. The About, of course, tells you the version of Composite Studio. And the options are described in the manual. Again, this is something I don't tend to get into too heavily. When you've put together a project, if you want to see if you have enough memory to handle it, that's what the check button will do. And it just, in very simple terms, will tell you how much memory you have left, and you're looking for words like great or okay. This back button used to work, and it will work if you have toaster paint prior to the Flyer 4.2 or even 4.1. If you have the older version of toaster paint, or you load an older version, this will work. And what it does, it allows you to bring an image in and then make it a background, and then work with other images on top of it. But I'll show you how to get around that when you're working with the current toaster program. The CN button over here will center your image. This button, well, let me show you. Just pretend we have an image right here. We really don't. But if that were an image, we push center, CN, and you'll notice it moves right to the center. Now, if you want to find out where your television cutoff is, you press this little gizmo right here, and you see an approximate safe area. Now, to get rid of that, just press it again, and there it goes. The size, you know what? Why don't we check that with the help area, because even I'm not sure. Let's see if we can find that. Okay. Click on this button to change an image or brush to its proper size, and we'll get into that a little later. Here's a very important button, Save Element, and it's the one that when not pressed causes the most confusion. This is why many times you'll think you're going to be coming out with a particular picture and it doesn't look the way you thought it was going to. It's probably because you forgot to press Save Element. Save Element. Now, here, this will clear the screen of everything. This will place an image that you have. See if we can do this. Let's say you've got an image that is in front of another image, but now you press the second image and suddenly it moves in front of the first one. But you'd like to get the first image back to where it was originally, and instead of going through several buttons, you just simply push this and the first image moves forward. And the reset button will take an image that's in the screen and just take it away. Okay. Now let's bring up an image so at least we know what we're working with. Well, I'll cover the next few buttons. This bevels. This will give it kind of a mosaic look. Doing this to an image right here will turn it into a negative. This will emboss it, kind of give it a three-dimensional, or actually it looks like it's going back into the image. I can show you that. Here's your drop shadow, and the number refers to how many times the shadow will paint itself on the screen. In other words, a 1 is a very minimal drop shadow, and a 5 is a very heavy drop shadow. And by clicking on the area directly underneath this little image will tell you where the drop shadow will appear. You see, the more I click it, the heavier, the longer it becomes. If I want to move it over, to the other side, I simply bring my pointer over here, and I can move that drop shadow anywhere I want around the image. Up, down, to the top, to the side, to the bottom. Okay? This button will blur it, and you have 3 different levels of blur. This turns the image into a black and white picture, and on the video scrapbooks I can show you where that can come in very handy. Of course, you can do that quite quickly in Toaster Paint, so it's just a matter of what you want to do, but there might be times you want to use that here. And this puts a frame around the picture, and you come up here and then you select the different frames, any one of the frames you want to use. Okay, well, we can continue. Let me clear this a second. This button will bring in an image. Think of an image as a frame store or an IFF file. However, if you click on the little button to the right of it, you'll notice that the word image changes and now it reads brushes. So if you want to load a brush, you have to click on this button, and it cycles through either image or brushes. The last button indicates whether an image is going to be clipped or not. Again, look at the help file, and we'll press that button, and you can see right here there's an image plus a box, and if we don't press the clipped button, the image stays inside the box. If we press the clip button, the image is actually kind of clipped off, so the box tends to clip it. Again, the instruction manual goes into more detail. Of course, that just will get you to your workbench or wherever else you're going to be. This number right here tells you how many elements you're working with. In other words, we have bird, 3 lights, and a background. That's considered 3. Let's clear the image. Let's add the first image. And the minute we save it, you see we have one image here. We bring up another image, and we save that, and now we're working with 2 images, and we bring up another image, and we now have 3 images. Over here are a series of templates. Now you do have to watch this. I found this out when I first got the program. Always make sure you're in the load position when you touch one of these, because if you're in the save position and you press one of these buttons, anything you have up here will actually get saved on top of the template, because you can create your own. But you have a whole bunch here, and you go through them by just simply pressing this outside button, or the outside arrow, I should say, and you have all these possibilities. See, these are already pre-made for you. And this represents an image that you can bring in there, a photograph. Here we would have 3 different photographs, and they're all laid out with drop shadow, beveling. It's all done for you. This whole series right in here, the colorize and the transparency, again, they just follow the same pattern that you can do in Toaster Paint. You can add color, you can colorize a picture, you can make it transparent. You have all these different settings. You can, it just allows you to do them a lot easier than trying to use that little circle that's in Toaster Paint and try to figure out what color goes where on the circle. Here you can easily see where you're going to apply it. The same thing here, we have textures and patterns. I'm not going into these 4 areas only because I tend not to use them, and I'd be honest with you, I don't know them that well. When I first got the program, I played with them to find out what they would do. They'll probably be, and they are very helpful. In fact, if you want to go beyond what I'm going to show you here, you'll want to use textures and patterns and colorize and transparency. But I've just found that what I'm doing, I don't have that much of a need for it as far as working with the video scrapbooks. I'm trying to work as fast as I can, and I'm not looking to design a lot of the filtering that you can get with this. The last area is the rendering options. This will also let you save what you've created. We'll get into these buttons once we start doing a project, and the same goes with the rendering list. All right, I've kind of explained what they are. Let's start from the beginning. Let me clear the background. Now, as I said, my reason for using Composite Studio is to take a vertical image that normally would have black on either side of it, or possibly even all around it, and place it in a nice looking background with a drop shadow and a frame. Now the first thing I do is I select the background. Now here's a nice feature about this program. I'm going to press image. See, I've already cleared it. I'm starting with a brand new cleared screen. I press image. Now it automatically opens for me into my hard drive called DH3 into a directory that I called BEST, B-E-S-T, FS, which stands for frame stores. These are the ones I've used the most, so I put them in one directory to make them easier to find. Now, it's my default directory, and the way you set a default directory is you have a little line down here, a little button, looks like a little arrow at the bottom. You press that, and this lights up, which says Set as Preset Directory. So what you do is you go to the directory that you're going to use most often, or if you're working on a project that you're going to be working with that particular project, and you go to it. Let me close this a second. You go to it just the way you would in any other program that allows you to press your volumes and your parents. For instance, that was on DH3, so I press volumes. Now these are all my hard drives for the toaster and flyer system. I go to DH3. I look for the directory called Best Frame Store. Now, here is another thing that I mentioned to Dave again when I first got this. There's no differentiation between a file and a directory. Notice, well, these are all files. I should say these are all directories. However, if there were a mixture of directories and files, well, here's a good one. Disk, info, we know that's a file, but it looks the same as from zip, which is actually a directory. You just have to know what are your directories, what you call them, and what are your file, and which ones are your files. All right, let's go back to Best Frame Store. I'm going to click that on. Now I'm inside. You see, now it shows me in my path, DH3, Best Frame Stores, Best FS. Okay, this is the one I wanted to set. So before I do anything else, I come over here, I press this button, and then I set it as number 1. Now it's the default. Whenever I click on this particular heading, like up here, load, and I click on image, it will always go to this directory. Now I can also preset 4 other directories. So if I'm working with several that I want to use, I can do the same thing. I go to them, I click on this little button, and then I select the number that I want it to be. For instance, I've already pre-selected number 2, that's DH1, that's one of the list of other frame stores out of Club Toaster. My numbering system, or my naming system, is CT, Club Toaster, Frame Store 2. I break them up because there's so many. I have Club Toaster F all the way up to 8. I have 8 different directories with all the Club Toaster frame stores. All right, over here, if I press number 3, that'll jump to another one. Number 4 jumps yet to another, and number 5 to yet another. So you can preset the directories, which saves you a lot of time hitting your volume and your, selecting and then going into a subdirectory. Well, it's kind of like the tabs on the toaster. Think of it that way, where you're on the toaster, on the flyer, where you want to go directly to your directory, and you preset those on the tabs below. So that's the same thing you have here. And he did it before the flyer. Okay, let's go back to where we were. Background. I'm going to use 3 lights as a background, so I'm selecting that. Now, I might also mention that if you're going to use multiple images and they happen to be in the same directory, you can select them all at the same time. For instance, I can select bird, I can select bricks, and if you'll notice, every time I select one, that name appears up here. Now let me show you what happens. When we're all done, we'll just press done, And up here right now, I have the bricks as the image that's selected. However, I can go over here to the image. All right, I can cycle through the different images that I've selected by just pressing this button. There's bird, there's bricks, and there's three lights. Three lights, bird, bricks. I have all three. All right, we said we wanted to use the three lights. So I'm going to select that. Now, remember I said that this back button, normally, if I press that, would make this full screen. And it would make it the background. However, the current version of Toaster Paint, for some reason, this feature doesn't work. So what I found I can do, oh, I forgot to show you about these two scrubbers. Let me show you them now. Is I come over here and I make this, I pull this scrubber over, and notice as I pull it, this yellow light is getting bigger. This represents the size of your image. I pull this all the way to the right, and I've now made this full screen. All right, let me explain these two little scrubbers. I didn't get into that, and I'll do it right now. This allows you to size your image. Now, I'm pulling this, and you'll kind of notice that it's keeping the same proportion. As I'm pulling it, the overall proportion is staying the same, probably a 4:3. If I press this button, in fact, this little scrubber is grayed out. If I press this button, it now allows me to adjust the image in two directions, which means it no longer will stay proportional. I could stretch it, so if I do this, the image will actually be stretched. It may not, in fact, we do this, the image will actually appear stretched on the screen as opposed to being simply cut off at the, as opposed to being a certain size. This will actually distort the image by doing it this way. So I'm going to keep this always on proportional setting because I'm not looking to stretch or distort my images. And I come back over here and I make this full screen. Also, well, I'll get into this on brushes. All right, now I've made this full screen. I come over here and I save it. Very important that you press that button before you go to anything else. If not, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble as far as trying to figure out what you've done. Okay, now we're going to go over here. We're going to select a brush. So I press this little arrow, which I mentioned before will cycle between images and brushes. Now the word brushes appears up here. I press in the middle of this. Get in the habit of pressing in the middle. That way there's no chance that you're going to press in the arrow area. Press in the middle. And again, another requester opens up. And I believe this is the brush that I want to use, this particular number. Notice another thing, as I think I mentioned earlier, whenever I save a brush, so that I don't confuse it with a frame store or an IFF file, I always name it exactly what it is. When I cut out a brush, I put the extension name of brush on there. I don't have to put the dot, but I will put the word brush after it so that I know it's a brush. Okay, I'm going to click that on. Also, I could preset this location if I wanted to. So I'm going to set that right now. And that means that anytime I now open up the brush menu, why it's going to come to this directory. Okay, I'm going to press done. Now I've got this image, and it tends to copy the previous image. So the previous one was full screen. This has done the same thing, so I'm going to make it a little smaller. And as I make it smaller, you'll notice that by its outline, we can tell this is a vertical image. All right, now I'm going to center this. Now, I don't center it by touching it over here. This is, again, an area where you can get confusing. If I were to press this, the whole screen would kind of go yellow, and I'm not quite sure what I've done. So you come over here, and I can move this where I want it. As I move this black rectangle, it represents the image over here. So I move it to the right, and this, of course, is moved to the right. I move it to the left, etc. Now, as I said, I want to center it, so I come down here to my center button, and I click that, and now it's centered. Now, I know about where my television cutoff is because I've been working with this for so long, but if you want to find out just how big you can make that image, you can press this button, and also come back and press the black rectangle, and you'll notice here's the television cutoff, which is just about where I had made my image. In fact, I was about to increase the size of this image, so I'll increase it to about there. And now I know that that image is in my safe area. Now, I can go larger than that, but on some monitors it might be cut off, because whatever you see here is the frame that will be created. All right, I like to get rid of this cutoff because it just gets to be annoying, so I'm going to press that again, and I'll press the rectangle again just to bring back my image. All right, now I've got an image called G006 brush, and it's centered. Now the two things I want to do with it, I want to put a frame around it, so I'm going to click the frame, and I'm now going to select the type of frame. All I've done now is saying I want a frame, and you notice how it kind of puts a little thicker line around here. That represents a frame. If I unclick it, notice it's now just a very thin, straight, very thin line. Okay, I'm going to click on the frame. Coming up here to frames, and I'll select the frame I want. Now let me think. Based on the background that I'm using, I think a gold frame will probably work. So I select, actually no, selecting what I want to be, in this case I know what the picture is, and you'll see in a minute, I'm going to select the rainbow. It's a very good combination. I'm selecting the rainbow. All right, now I also want to put a drop shadow on this, and I find that the number 2 drop shadows seem to work the best for me. You may like to use a higher or lower number. I'm going to just use number 2 right now. And about 2 or 3 clicks gives me the drop shadow I'm looking for. Now I've got everything I want in here. Now I'm going to come over and I'm going to save the element. Okay. Now it changes from yellow to this normal looking gray, which is where you want to be when you're all finished. In fact, you want to be after you've handled each element. Now, if I want to remember what I've been doing here, I can right-click on the mouse. I'm going to press the right mouse button. As I press it, I'm going to be holding it over different areas of this picture. And look up here and see what happens. I'll press the right mouse button, and you see the word 3 lights appears. That's my background. As I come over the image itself, the brush itself, it gives me the name of the brush. And over here it also tells me that I have a frame around that brush called rainbow. Now it doesn't tell you anything about the drop shadow, but that's obvious because you can see that here. Okay, also we were talking about this number up here. You'll notice we're dealing with 2 elements. We're dealing with the background and we're dealing with the brush itself. So it tells you there are 2 elements. If you were just curious about these buttons over here, we can go ahead and push this check button, and this will tell you how much memory you have. Also, it tells you what all your elements are. It tells you everything that you've got in your project, and it tells you that it has enough memory to handle this. If you had some other programs running and forgot to turn them off, and you were depleting the system of memory, you would get an indication here that you needed more memory. It's low memory. Or if you tried to put too many elements into this, maybe you overloaded it, you might also get that message. So that's one of the reasons for checking it. But after a while, you'll get used to knowing just how much memory you can handle. And I used to check this an awful lot when I first started. I don't think I've checked it now in a couple of years after using it. All right, we are now ready to save this element. Now, I know we spent a lot of time on this, and I said one of the reasons I use this program is because it's fast, but I wanted to show you everything here. Once we actually start using it, you'll see how fast this program will work. All right, what I want to do now is I want to save this as a frame store. So I come down here to this box and I press the Add button, which again opens up another requester, and I could have preset that. Right now I didn't make one called, I don't think I made one for this particular project, so let's just leave it in Homes, and I'm going to put in sample. We're just going to call this sample 1. I'll give you a little hint. Let me finish what I'm doing. Sample 1, the frame store light came up. If it didn't come up, I would have pressed it. You do have a choice between saving it as a frame store or saving it as an RGB. The choice is yours, but we're working in frame stores, so I select the frame store, and then I answer OK. Now, I mentioned I was going to give you, and then you'll notice down here, now you have a rendering list. That's what this calls for, a rendering list, and over here it tells you whether it's a frame store or an RGB, and in this case we saved it as a frame store. This is also an indication if you meant to save it as a frame store and the RGB light comes on, then you realized you pressed the wrong button when you went to save it. Okay, and this tells you the path that you're saving it to. Now, I mentioned I was going to give you a little hint. When you're working with video scrapbooks, you're really working a lot with numbers. It's very helpful to try to keep things in chronological order. Brush number G006 is going to become G006 in my project. In other words, it's picture number 6. The G designated a particular grouping that I was using. But the point is, if I save this and gave it the name of G006, when I put all my frame stores together, when I meld them with the frame stores that I already have made, it will just fall into the right place, and I won't have to bother jumping around trying to put the brushes in one place and the frame stores in another. In other words, the ones that I've made from Composite Studio. Again, I'll show you that a little later. Okay, let's go to the next step. A very good idea is to get in the habit of saving the list. This will save everything we've done. In other words, it doesn't just save this image, it saves the information about the image, so that if for any reason the program locked up or crashed, the computer crashed, you did something that caused the whole system to go down on you, all of the work you put in here would not be lost. So we'll go over here and we'll save the list, and again we can put that in a directory. I usually try to keep it in the same directory I'm working in. One of the things I do is I call it, the list I save, I just call it list, L-I-S-T, and I know whenever I see that's connected with this program, and it's my list file. Again, the reason being is that this program does not tell you you're about to overwrite anything. So I could come in here and save a frame store by mistake on top of the list, call it list by mistake, and it would overwrite this particular file. But a nice feature is I can just constantly come in here and save my list. It doesn't tell me that I'm going to overwrite it. It just does that. All right, now we have one complete picture ready. But let me now show you the steps it actually takes when you're working with a lot of images. I clear this so I can start on the next one. And now I'm just going to kind of go through this at the speed I normally go through, and I'll kind of talk you through it. First, I'm going to grab my background. So I'll grab blue sky, make it full screen, save it. Come over here to brushes, grab the next brush, save it, pull it in, I should say, size it, center it, give it one more adjustment to center it, put a frame around it, click on the drop shadow, bring it down. That's just a little too much. Pick my frame, picking silver, done, and I save it. I'm going to add it, and we're going to call that sample 2, and I'm going to save it. Again, I tend to save after every one I work in. It's just a habit I've been getting into. All right, I'm done. I now did it. What I just did in probably less than a minute is I selected a background, I selected an image, I put a frame around it, I put a drop shadow, I defined the frame I'm going to use, and then I added it to my list of frame stores, gave it a name, saved it, and saved the whole list. Did the whole thing in, what did it take, about maybe 45 seconds? All right, now let's see what happens once you have a whole list of these. You can just keep going. You can build 10, 20, as many as you want. It doesn't really matter. There's no limit, and it doesn't use up memory. The memory is only used per item. Let me show you another one that's kind of nice. Let's just jump into one of these. We've already saved it. Let's clear this. Let's go into a template. Let's say you want to have 3 pictures on the screen at one time. Click that on. This is set up for 3 photographs or 3 pictures, 3 images. In this case, would not use a brush here because the brush would only fit in a part of the image because of the shape of the brush. These are designed for normal size, 752 by 480 images. So we'll go to an image. Now these are just my backgrounds, so they're not going to make fantastic looking pictures, but just to show you what we're doing here, I've selected 3 of these. I reset this. Now what I do is I press one of these croutons, I believe they're called, and then I cycle through the image until I get the one that I want. I have bricks, daisies, and bird. Now why don't we make that bird? And we'll save that element. Now let's go to the next one. Now, again, a nice feature is that when you press the next one, it actually cycles to the next image. The only thing is that bird was at the end of my list, so my next image was nothing. So I cycle through that, and we start with bricks. I'll show you how this works on the next one. Okay, I'm not going to change the size. I'm not going to do anything more. It's already set up to be beveled, drop shadowed. They're pre-sized. So I will save that. And then I'm going to come down to the last one. Now watch, there's the name bricks up here. Watch what happens when I press this last crouton. Well, it fooled me. Okay, there's daisies. All right, you noticed it was none, and then when I pressed it, daisies came up. The next one in a row. It didn't come up with bricks, didn't come up with bird. It just keeps cycling through to the next one. Okay, we'll save that. Now let's see, I think I'd rather have this one in the background. Let's see if this, we talked about this earlier. If I press this, no, it's probably easier than just simply to press this one, which sets it in the foreground. We'll save that. And, well, we have to work backwards. Here's what I'm looking to do. We bring this one's going to be in the background, this one's going to be in the fore, this one's going to be in the middle. So we save that, press this one, and we'll save that. Okay, now we have them layered. This is on top of this one's on top of this one. All right. Again, if I want to see what I've got, I can hold my right mouse button down, and I'll see that the background, I'll see that I've got bird up here, bricks here, daisies here. Let's save this one. Come down here and add it to my list, and we'll call this sample 3. Okay. And actually I said we added it. Now let's save the list. Okay. Now I could close the program if I wanted to, and then reload it later by going, that's right, the last button I didn't show you. Here, let's tell you what, let me clear the list now, everything that was here. I'm going to clear that list. That's what this button means, and it asks you to want to close the rendering list, yes, or clear it. Go to load list, come back down to that list that I had typed in before, And there they are, all three of my samples reloaded. Now, the one thing you have to do before you render is make sure that this, the very first item that you're working with is highlighted. In other words, don't start rendering with this one selected, or the program may not cycle back and pick up the first two. It's just, again, a little idiosyncrasy, but it's not a big one. Click this one, and then we would press the render button. Now, right now I don't have the toaster running, or I should say I don't even have the toaster paint running, and if I press render, it will tell me to load toaster paint. So we'll come over here and we're going to open up toaster paint. And now I use the left Amiga M key to get over to Composite Studio, and I just keep pressing it until it appears. There it is. And like I said, we have our three pictures ready to render, and all I have to do now is render it. Now, at that point, I take my hand off the mouse. You don't touch the mouse, and you just let Composite Studio do its thing. Now, if you kind of like to see what it's doing, well, I guess we can Alt-M over to it if it doesn't show you the screen. And now you're going to see how it actually builds these images. We'll look at one of them and then we'll cut away until the whole project is finished. But it starts by laying down the background, which, if you recall, I used on the first one were these three lights. And then it draws a frame, the rainbow frame. It does some crazy things with lighting while it does it. That's always been there. It's drawing the shadows. Remember, there was the drop shadow. I used the layer 2, so it's the drop shadow comes down twice. And then the frame comes down. It grabs the brush that I had selected and places that brush right inside the frame. There we go. It tells you exactly how long it took. It actually took 9 minutes and 52 seconds. It took about a minute to do these two images, and then it took about 6 or 7 minutes to do this one, because we had to build, this is what took a lot of time. That was the last one. That was the one that had the brick, the bird, and the daisies.